Namaskar, hello and welcome to NCRT's live phone-in interactive program Paricharcha. Our today's topic is having a positive mindset. Let's talk our mind out. So, positive mindset, we all know that it leads you to the right path. It can have a big impact on your physical and mental well-being. Well, I would like to say a quote by Winston Churchill here, that the positive thinker sees the invisible, feels the intangible, and achieves the impossible. So this is in our hands to make it true. So we have this panel discussion on this topic, and you're watching us on PMeVIDYA channel number 6 and channel number 11. If you have any questions to raise, any experiences to share on positive thinking, then please send your questions through our YouTube channel, which is ncertofficial. You can write down your questions in the live chat box and share them with us. You're also watching us live on our Facebook channel, National Council of Educational Research and Training. Well, this is the program under the Manodarpan initiative by the Ministry of Education. And in case you want to call us on our toll-free number, the number is 844-844-0632. If you want to know about this Manodarpan initiative, what all we do, what all we discuss, and there's a lot to know, then please visit the website manodarpan.mhrd.gov.in. So we have a panelists with us, and they'll be discussing all about having a positive mindset. Let me introduce our panels to you, and we have with us Ms. Florette G. Dakar. Welcome, ma'am. So, ma'am is a professor in education from Northeast Regional Institute of Education, NCRT, Shillong. And we have with us Ms. Bertha G. Dakar. Welcome, ma'am.
Greetings.
Thank you. She is a senior coordinator from Bethany Society Learning Sanctuary, Shillong. We also have Ms. Soni Gill with us. Welcome to our program, ma'am. So, ma'am is a special educator and a psychologist from Bethany Society, Shillong. And last but not at all the least, we have with us Mr. Sumit Datta. Welcome to our program, sir.
Namaskar.
Namaskar. Sir is a counseling psychologist and mental health trainer from Kolkata. I welcome all our panels to this program, and I would like to invite you to this discussion and raise your opinions, your everything, the knowledge you have, and please share it with all our viewers. So let's begin with Florette, ma'am, and I would like to ask you, ma'am, that why particularly did you pick this topic for this discussion? Why are we having a chat on having a positive mindset? Florette, ma'am, can you hear me?
They're having network issues in Neri right now. Okay. So she just said maybe Shumit can begin the introduction, and then if she can be back, we can add her in again.
Okay. So let's wait for Florette ma'am to come back, and in the meanwhile, let's begin with Bertha ma'am, and I would like to ask her to share your experiences. Ma'am, if you can hear me, please share your life experiences and tell our viewers that how you handled the situations, the problems, the challenges with a positive mindset.
Thank you. I would like to start with this. Life is not a package that is handed to us on the day we are born. To a very large extent, life is how we make it. The conditions, the situations we are in, and also those that come along the way. As a child, I always remembered myself with very thick glasses on. That's the memory that I have even now. And I have the memory of the photographs, and whether in school or in the neighborhood or in the church, I would always, be remembered as the four eyes, okay? Four. And that didn't really matter so much in those days. But then it did make me feel very different. And when I remember myself in those days, I think I looked very ugly with those glasses on. And it became harder, I think, in school. I still remember my school days, where I always would have to sit in the front, and I could not follow, I could not read as quickly as others. I would need a stronger light all the time. And it made me feel, smaller and lesser than the other children. And of course, when a child of 7, 8 years have to wear glasses all the time, I was prevented from active games, running around and all that. And what came with that also is breaking my glasses. And of course, naturally, when I kept breaking my glasses once a week, scoldings come along. And these, all this made me feel very confused. It made me feel sad and sometimes discouraged, but somehow I had to keep up. Then as I grew older, going into my teen years, I found that the power of glasses kept increasing. And what started to set in was night blindness, color blindness. Of course, my parents took us all around the country, checkups, but nothing could be done. And I started really needing table lamps to read, and I needed large print. And I was very frustrated because I could not do my studies as I knew I could have done them. But I kept on studying, did quite well in school, and I kept on with the piano lessons, and that became difficult too, so I could not take exams, but at least what I had helped me to keep playing the piano by ear. So, and that was the time when everyone is very conscious of themselves, how they look, how they perform in society, all that. So I always felt the odd one out. And because of the decreasing eyesight, I started to depend a lot on others. I just could not do what others could. And well, life went on. I did my studies, but after my MSW, I had wanted to go on into psychiatric social work another 2 years, but because of very bad vision then, I just could not do it. So that. And, but anyways, and in my late 20s, that's when the greatest hit came, when I and my brother were diagnosed with an eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa, which the eye specialist told us would eventually end up in blindness. So we knew about it. We knew that it would happen. And I was, very mixed up by then. I don't know whether to feel hopeful or to feel hopeless. one part of me told me that all will not be lost. The other part, that the very important parts of your life will be lost. So I was in my 20s. And, all along, since my college days, I had earned some kind of a living. I was teaching music and singing in a school during my college days. I work as a substitute teacher. I gave coaching classes in English and other subjects. But after my studies and when the opportunities, I applied for 3 government jobs. I passed in all the interviews, but I was not allowed to join because I simply could not read anymore by then. I could not read print. And so everyone thought that, I would not be suitable for the job. And in those days, I didn't know about the rights. I didn't know about anything else. And, well, you can imagine how I felt. Loss, no matter how much you know that it was coming, no matter how much you warned about it, but when the loss actually happens, it's a time when life stops. It did stop for me. And because of that, I became heartbroken. I lost many of my friends. My expectations of earning a good living, of doing well in society, of contributing to the society. And well, of course, that's the time when the boyfriend started running away also. So I knew, but no regrets about that. For 5 years, I stayed at home. And I was feeling very guilty because I knew that my parents had spent a lot in, traveling around the country, looking for treatment and all that. And I could just imagine what they were going through. 2 children with blindness. The anxiety, the worry that was with them. But finally, it was my mother. My mother never stopped praying. And maybe because of her prayers and the prayers of many, I suddenly realized that all is not lost. That there is something more to this than just staying back, defeated, just because there's no eyesight. By that time, I had lost even my faith in God. I became very angry with people around me. I became angry and please forgive me, jealous also. Why others could do it and I could not do it. But I think with that realization that later came to me that I could do better than just sitting around, I reconnected myself to my God and started growing in the faith, reading the scriptures and prayers, lots of prayers and the support of others made me realize that there are more strengths in myself than what has been lost. So, and that was the time when I remember a book that I came across in a halfway home in Bangalore, where I was placed for a year during my MSW days. The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. That book, where I just remember that line in that book where that we have to fight against the inferiority complex, which are actually profound self-doubts. And these self-doubts come from looking at the weaknesses, the inadequacies, the insecurities that I had been that had been building up in me. So I started looking into what I can do and looking into getting over that pride of depending on others. I loved independence, but I lost it. But then I realized that there's no harm humbling yourself and being a bit dependent. But thanks to the Lord, I didn't have to depend on others too much. Slowly, then after 5 years, after that reconnection, the building up of my faith, then windows started opening. And I was asked to work for people. I was asked to work as a counselor in a psychiatric home here in Shillong. And later, when the school for the blind in Shillong was opened by Bethany Society, I was invited to join as a teacher. And that was the time when I knew that all the barriers that I had been facing in my life, all the barriers that had prevented me from functioning as a contributive human being, could be reduced, and that we could work around them and function even at a different scale, a different level, but at least be able to do something. So I was sent for training. We did work. I was then employed by Bethany Society, and that's when my hopes went up again. That's when that feeling that I should positively look at everything, positively think, positively act, positively have an attitude about other people, even those who had, been very mean, who had been, we don't blame them. I just felt that I had to go on and on and on. And what I want to say is that as a person, I knew that a positive mindset is very important, and it was helpful. It is helpful. But we also need the opportunities around us. If the opportunities are not there, if the external help had not been there, whether spiritually or in other ways, it would have been difficult for me to remain positive. So for this, I'm very grateful for the family, for my family, which have been very supportive. And I'm also grateful to Bethany Society. I would like to mention Kamuna Rona, our Executive Director, who has full faith in persons with disabilities and who would give the most opportunities to people. So whoever is connected with our organization, I can boldly say that from that feeling of dejection, from that feeling of rejection, from that feeling of uselessness, we are more positive now about life, about what we can do in spite of our limitations. And what I feel is that when we are positive about things, even if it's the least contribution we can make, it's the best that we can give. Yeah? Maybe I'll end there. Thank you.
Story, and I must say it's a very inspiring story, and I would like to congratulate you for being so brave on your journey and handling all the challenges with such a positive mindset. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
So you got the idea that having a mindset, a positive mindset, is very important. But then we are not born with positive mindsets. We have situations in our lives which challenge us, which makes us feel useless. So we have to develop the positive mindset. And let's ask Soni ma'am that is there any particular process she wants to suggest that how can we help ourselves and develop a positive mindset? Ma'am, over to you.
For that most personal sharing. It was so wonderful to listen to it. I'd just like to put a little bit of psychological background to this whole thing. When we talk about having a positive mindset, obviously we think about three major things, okay? And one, of course, is going to be how we think, our mind, our affect or our emotions, and of course our attitudes, which are governed by both of these. And resulting from that will be how we behave, of course, okay? So can I have the first slide, please? Yeah, okay, so since I'm going to look more at the emotional aspect of it, let's just think about what are emotions. And most of us, when we think about emotions, we think, when we say she's so emotional, we generally think, oh, that person is getting carried away by emotions or something like that, okay? But having emotions is essential. It's what makes us human, right? But we do have emotions that can have negative impacts on us. Correspondingly, we do have emotions that are positive on the other hand, okay? So if you see the second slide, we might have fear, and on the other side, the flip side of it would be courage. We might have sadness, on the flip side would be joy or happiness. We might have guilt, on the other side would be lack of guilt, okay, because guilt is one of the most demeaning of all emotions. We might have shame, regret, we might even begin to hate people. However, why it is so important to change these emotions into positive ones was partly touched upon by Tanvi in the beginning when she said that having a positive mindset has an impact not only on our emotional selves or our psychological or mental selves, but also on our physical selves. Okay, so we know that if we, for example, like when we are really very scared, right, this whole adrenaline rush comes in and we get into a state where our heart starts palpitating fast, beating really fast, where our mouth gets totally dry, where our palms get all sweaty, and then where you're kind of, you can feel it in your body. Emotion is not something that you just feel as a feeling. It's also a physical state in your body. So when these negative emotions are there and huge stress is there, or even small stresses, but persistent small stresses day after day after day, what starts happening is that the body gradually starts wearing down, right? And the body starts becoming, our immune system goes down terribly. What can also result is that we can have a lot of coronary conditions, blood pressure issues. It has even been linked to diabetes, and it has even been linked to a certain extent to stones, kidney stones and other such things. But being healthy emotionally, what I'm trying to say, is that it is crucial not just for our mental health, but also for our physical health, basically for a sound mind in a sound body. Okay? So let's just go to the next slide where I want to talk about, when we think about psychology and what the roles of psychology have been over the years, over the centuries. Yeah, we generally think, okay, psychology mental health, or mental ill health, it means something that is curative, right? Something that is more about we need to help people who are having distress. We need to help people who have mental illnesses. However, in this 21st century, in this new millennium, there's been a real shift. And that was brought about largely by Martin Seligman, who began this whole school of positive psychology. Yeah, and basically here it said, no, it is not only about helping people who have mental illnesses or having psychosocial distress, but it is to help all people live more fulfilling lives, to help all people achieve their higher aims in life, and to feel really good about themselves and to feel good about things around them. And it was also, we also began seeing one of the aims of psychology to be able to detect and to see higher kind of talents that each of us has and to nurture those talents. Okay? So this millennial shift in psychology is like a paradigm shift almost. It's crucial in understanding mental health, mental well-being. Okay, so I mentioned, please go to the next slide. So we have here this PERMA model. Okay, I like to think of it as permanent because it helps me remember things better then. But this PERMA model, again, it was suggested by, it put forth by Martin Seligman. Okay, and PERMA stands for these 5 things. P is positive emotion, E, engagement, R, relationships, M, meaning, and A, achievement. Okay, so we had, when Ms. Bertha was talking before this, we heard about how she tried to shift her negative emotions, about in the beginning how she felt, oh, now I'm going to be useless, I'm going to lose the most precious thing in my life, my sight. You know, so, but how gradually she was able to change those emotions of uncertainty, feeling uncertain, feeling inadequate, feeling all these types of things, young boyfriends leaving a young girl and things like that. No, I mean, all these things can be pretty demotivating for a person, but she was able to change those negative kind of emotions to more positive ones, where she began to see, okay, even though I can't, gradually she saw in life, even though I can't see or couldn't read as fast as other kids in my class when I was young, as an older person and once given opportunities, she could do really, really well academically as well. She became really useful in society. Okay, so all these things, that just shows how changing an emotion can actually change your mindset. Okay, so your main barrier or your main challenge in life can actually be like a stepping stone, an opportunity for a higher purpose. Okay, so here we have, in positive emotion, we said that it's important to spend time on positive experiences that can help us with happiness, self-esteem, feeling of satisfaction and gratefulness. Okay, so basically we all know that this is something we should do, but it's not so hard to carry out when we are really down, right? But let's just look at, so how do you do those things? You do those things by enjoying things, by getting into things that you enjoy and really enjoying them to the full, you know? And you make sure that you have enough relaxation and leisure time activities. But the most important thing that I feel is this attitude of gratitude that one should have. For example, a person could say, yeah, I failed in such and such exam, but this other opportunity arose for me. And if I had not failed that exam, imagine I would have joined a profession that I didn't love so much. You know, so things like that. So to remember that gratitude, even for something that might look like a failure at one time, can actually turn out to be very, very positive. And we often say it's all for the best when we try to comfort each other, right? And there is wisdom in that. Because if you believe the best is yet to be, you know that a door closes, somewhere else a window will open. Okay, so that thing, being grateful for things that do come to you. Sometimes even being grateful for things that we think are negative at that time. Okay, the next thing, the E of karma, is engagement. And unless we are totally involved and fully committed to being in the present, whatever we are learning, whatever we are doing, we don't get full satisfaction from it. In fact, when we talk about children learning in a class, we say that unless we first work on the engagement in the classroom, their performance is not going to happen to the optimum level at all. So it is also here. So here we apply your strengths to a task and allow yourself to be fully immersed in that task. Don't be there half-heartedly. Okay, so that is what engagement is all about. It helps build your character to the extent that you become much more organized. And it's skill-based also because you develop a lot of skills through engagement. And then, of course, we have the big R, which is relationships. Yeah? We know that as human beings, we are all social animals. Human beings are social animals, and we need to relate to each other. And having meaningful relationships is probably one of the most meaningful thing in our existence itself. Meaning, M, karma, meaning, we find a purpose in our lives. Okay, and somehow I'd like to try to bring in this whole aspect of mindfulness in engagement as well as in meaning, where we begin to concentrate on the here and the now. Okay? And we concentrate fully on that and we immerse ourselves in that and we get meaning from it. You find purpose, and you find purpose generally in something in a goal that is larger than yourself. Again, I'd like to just bring to your thing how Miss Bertha had said that once she was called to be a counselor in the psychiatric hospital, once she was called to help teach kids in a school for visually impaired children, it was something much bigger than herself. Here she was dealing and reaching out to many, many, many more people and giving what they could not get otherwise. It could come only from her. So that was her meaning in her life at that time. And the last is achievement, of course, accomplishment. If you do not accomplish things, you start feeling that you are useless. Right? So here we have this thing where we say that we make goals to achieve them. But however, we notice in our field especially, we tend to notice goals and steps that are very tiny. So every tiny achievement is a huge success. Okay, and be able to recognize that and see, yes, these are things that all these small steps are what leads to final really big steps in the end. So Parma, these 5 things are the basis of the emotional aspects of having a positive mindset. And then we have also looked at another of positive psychologist, Christopher, has looked at character strengths. Okay, again to do a lot with emotions. Can we have the next slide, please? So those you'll see overlap to a certain extent. One is humanity, being humane to others. Wisdom, courage, temperance, justice, and transcendence. Okay, so here we'll go to the next slide where we just look at a few smaller strengths under each of these. So under wisdom, we have creativity, curiosity, love of learning, open-mindedness, and perspective. In courage, we have authenticity. It is hard. It is really a scary thing to show your true self to others because you don't know whether you're going to be rejected or not, right? But being authentic is the first stage of courage. Bravery, of course, and persistence. Once you start with something, you see it through to its logical conclusion. And zest. Zest is beautiful. You must have zest for whatever you do, okay? Love of life. And then you have humanity, which is the humane aspect. You're kind to people, you love people, you have a certain level of social intelligence where you know how to behave with people, how to understand other people's emotions, your own emotions, how to temper them and all. And in justice, of course, we all have to think about fairness, teamwork. All these also lead to great emotional strengths. Temperance, learning to forgive. And often when we think we learn to forgive, we think about learning to forgive others. But what we often miss out is learning to forgive ourselves. And I've seen so often with so many young people I meet that they have such high standards for themselves and they're willing to make concessions for everybody else, but not for themselves. You know, and I say, if somebody else did the same thing, what would... But I can't do it. Okay, so I believe that this forgiveness and believing that you need to forgive yourself is a crucial part of being emotionally positive. Okay? And then you have modesty and humility. Obviously, nobody likes a proud person. And then prudence, knowing when to say what, how to behave in situations. But the most important is self-regulation. Okay? Where you know that I am the person that will control and determine how I will act or how I will feel or how I will behave in a certain situation, where you regulate yourself. And transcendence is the highest level, you know, the Maslow's self-actualization level almost, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the self-actualization where these things help a lot. Your appreciation of beauty and excellence. Gratitude again. Always gratitude. Hope. And I believe one of the most important things in having a positive mindset, like self-regulation and like gratitude, is a sense of humor. Because very often when we are going through a tough time, challenging times in life, we tend to look at all of what is everything that is difficult. And we look at ourselves and say, oh, how useless, how horrible and all. But if you can actually joke about those things, it makes it much easier to go through those things. You know, you kind of add a little bit of spice to that whole thing and it makes it much better. And the last thing, of course, is either religion or spirituality, religiousness or spirituality. And like Ms. Bertha said in her story, religion helped her an awful lot. And for many people, it is believing in something larger than yourself. So these are the strengths, these are the character strengths brought forward by Christopher, also a positive psychologist. And in the next slide, I just want to concentrate. There are 4 things to show how to foster positive thinking. When we think about the past, many people tend to think about all the negative experiences. Instead, we should concentrate on all the happy experiences, the experiences that were a stepping stone that got you to a better place. Okay? Of course, we have the same humanity, which is performing acts of kindness and expressing gratitude, already mentioned both of them. But I'd like to concentrate a little bit about mindfulness here. Okay, because although we have seen it in the past slides as well, mindfulness is something that brings you back to yourself and brings you back to the spirit of the universe in a fraction of a second almost. So when you decide to be mindful, you just kind of relax and you focus your attentions on the here and the now. Now, we're not going to think about the past or about the future. We're not going to feel bad about things about the past. We're not going to be worried or anxious about the future, but just savor the current moment. Okay? And the other beautiful thing about mindfulness is that when you do it in a mindful way, there is no judgment. Absolutely no judgment. So you're just observing with a certain amount of compassion and loving attitude. Okay, so that is what I'd like to just mention about this. And let's go to the next slide, the next slide actually has positive emotions and a few, like a mind map kind of things, a few things around them. Skip that one and go to the next one, which says resilience. So emotional strength helps build resilience in a person. And what is resilience? It is, like we generally say somebody is very resilient when we feel that they've had a traumatic experience or a bad experience and then can bounce back. Okay, so it means bouncing back from difficult experiences. And a definition would be the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. But we bounce back. Okay, it is so. And the fist next to it shows a lot of things like adversity, learning, determination, growth, thinking, grit, perseverance, mindset. All these things help you to become a resilient person. Okay? And the next slide, the characteristics of resilience will kind of describe as a resilient person here. Generally, a person who is resilient has an internal locus of control. That means I feel that if something happens to me, unless it is something, something as random as an accident or something that happens from outside, but I can actually determine how I will manage my life. I can actually determine how I will choose to feel about a certain situation. I can actually determine how I will choose to think. I can determine how I will choose to act. So my inner world, who is responsible for? And I can control it. And I should not give that control to others. Right? The other important thing that people with resilience have is a strong self-esteem and a sense of self-efficiency. So you feel skilled enough to be able to handle situations around you. A resilient person has personal goals in life, personal dreams even. Like this is what I want to fulfill in my life. This is what I want to do by the end of this month. This is what I want to do by the end of my life, for example. And a person has a sense of meaningfulness. A person can also use past successes, say, last time when I went through a situation like this, I managed to overcome it by doing this, and in the next time I come to a challenging situation like this, I know I can handle it because I can use those tools, those skills for the next part. A resilient person will also you use humor to make yourself feel better even though you're in a difficult situation. You use tolerance, patience, and optimism. And I can adapt to change. is an action-oriented approach to life. Plus, a person who is resilient, generally you will find that they have good relationships, strong relationships with other people whom they can rely on. And a person who is resilient will also not feel that it is beneath him or her to ask for help in a particular situation. And a resilient person has faith in whatever you believe in, but some faith. So the next one is just a little quote that I'd like to kind of wrap up with. Finding gratitude and appreciation is the key to resilience. People who take the time to list things they are grateful for are happier and healthier. Okay? And therefore, we often have a thing like, we can go to the next slide also now. Some say that you should keep a journal, a gratitude journal. Some others say, okay, just have a jar, an empty jar, and cut a slit on the top of the tap, and every day put in one chit of paper, something that I was grateful for today. And then at a time when you are faced with challenges or that you're feeling down or sad, open that jar, open all the chits, read them. You'll see what a miracle that does. Okay? So gratitude is crucial for all emotional development. And here again, I'd like to say that the last slide, which is this big dog walking around with a toothy grin on his face, I hope you all can see it, says, I'm resilient, I'm recovering readily from difficulties faced. I will keep trying until I succeed. I will not complain if I don't get my way. I will make the most use of my spare time. I will not act rashly. That means I will be thoughtful. I'll reflect on what I do. I will change the things that I can and accept the things that I can't change. So I just like to end with the last slide, which is a nice little kind of acronym, it's like a mnemonic actually for younger people about keeping a positive mindset. It is great dream. Okay? Of course, it is like bringing the whole thing about bringing emotional states together, emotional thing together. But I'm just doing it as a sum up. And I think it will help the children and the young adults watching this to remember it. Okay, so great dream. So GREATDREAM. So great, G is doing things for others, that is giving. Okay, giving, doing things for others. R, relating. It's crucial to connect with people. And especially during the pandemic, I feel that a lot of people have not been able to make all the connections they could. But reaching out, even if it's in a phone call, is so important. E, exercising. Back to the same point. Emotional health, emotional well-being, having an emotional positive attitude, again, extremely related to the body. So if you don't exercise and don't take care of your body, it's much more difficult to be happy, to have good emotional health. Yeah. Also exercising, I just like to bring it to your attention here that when you exercise, the brain releases certain endorphins, some chemicals that are like an actual feel-good chemical. So you don't need alcohol, you don't need any substances from outside to make you feel good. Exercise, your body will do it for you itself. Okay? A, appreciating. Notice the beauty around you, notice the world around you. Notice things and appreciate them. Even if not out loud, of course you can do it out loud, but at least make a mental note of it. It will change your mindset. T, trying out. keep trying to learn new things. Okay, learning new things helps your brain become very neuroplastic. It helps you till you die. I mean, till you're 80, 90. As you keep learning new things, your brain starts making more buds or sprouts. It's called sprouting in the brain. Okay, and your neural connections improve and increase, and that gives you a lot of joy. Okay, so that is great. Giving, relating, exercising, appreciating, and trying out. And dream, direction. Have goals to look forward to. Don't just go with the flow and say, okay, I'll go wherever this stream leads me. Know what you want. Work for it. Resilience. Find ways to bounce back. Emotion, of course, our main topic. Take a positive approach. And acceptance. Be comfortable with who you are. Okay? So often, like that thing about authenticity, there is also acceptance. So often there are shadow aspects of ourselves that we feel that only we know, but if anyone else ever gets to know, they will hate us. But gradually, and this is from Erickson's theory, gradually as we go to accept what are our darker sides, we grow much more in self-love and we become much more holistic people. Okay? So that is acceptance. And the last word is meaning, of course. Be part of something bigger. And that will keep you so rooted and that will keep you emotionally strong. So please remember, all young people who are listening today, great dream. This is what you have to remember about emotional aspects, about having a positive mindset. And do try to follow this, okay? And I'd like to end with this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I am definitely going to follow my great dream from now on. And it was wonderful to know about these characteristics of the positive mindset. And I'm sure the viewers who are watching this session will also try and follow what you said. So, ma'am, would you like to pinpoint some do's and don'ts in developing positive mindset?
Yeah, there will be some repetition in this answer with things that I've said already, but no harm, because repeating will just make everyone remember more, better. Okay, but I'd just like to tell you, like if you try to visualize a graph on an XY axis, and you look at one side and say, okay, these are things that will boost my emotional well-being. And on the bottom, you have these things that are, the time and effort that you need to do those things. So first, I'd like to concentrate on certain things that you should do. Okay? The thing that requires the least amount of effort and time is to smile. Okay? By the way, there's one study which says that the smile, the way it contracts certain muscles and all that, actually leads to a message going to the brain to make you actually improve your mood. It's not that you make people around you happier, but the musculature in the face when you smile changes the mood in your own brain as well. Okay, that's a fantastic experiment that some doctors have done.
Okay. So
then the next thing you need to do is walk tall, like throw your shoulders back, but be confident and walk tall. Again, it does not require too much time or too much effort. Just do it normally instead of slouching and walking around. Say, okay, let's walk straight and tall. Laugh with a lot of people. Sense of humor again. Humor is essential. Enjoy a cup of tea. Okay, I say a cup of tea. For you, it could be a cup of coffee. It could be whatever you enjoy. Enjoy an ice cream. But the moment you do it mindfully. Savor the taste, savor the perfume, savor the temperature, savor the coldness, whatever it is. Then especially for people like me, play with a pet. Spend time with animals. They are so non-judgmental. It's one of the most beautiful things. And then again, another thing which doesn't require much effort is pray on a regular basis. Okay, just say a little prayer. And if you never pray at all, just say a prayer of gratitude, thank you, and it helps you. Perform an act of kindness. And then what I had mentioned earlier, again I will bring it up, gratitude. Keep a gratitude journal or a gratitude jar or a gratitude shoebox or something, but keep something where you can write down every day from your lived experience something that you are grateful for. Okay? Listen to happy music, watch dances on TV, whatever gives you joy, do those things. And I love the next one, take a nap. When you can, take a nap. Sleep well. Yeah? Go for a stroll in the park. Now come the slightly higher things, okay, which require more effort. Go for a run. Oh, a little harder. But anyway, go for a run. Meditate. And meditate is something which we have talked about also as part of mindfulness, where you try to empty your mind from a constant flow of thoughts and just concentrate on the here and the now. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And gradually you'll see how the kind of calmness it brings to your whole being, your whole person. And at a higher level again, volunteer. Go join an organization and do some voluntary work for people who may be less fortunate than you are. It helps a lot. Go for a vacation. Of course, that requires a lot of effort and planning, but holidays are also important. Okay? So what are things that you're not going to do? Definitely do not brood. Don't overthink and go over and over and over some mistake that you made. Instead, find a way to rectify it if possible. And I think in the next now, regrets, guilt, focusing on guilt and focusing on regret is one of the most unproductive things that one can do, okay, as far as emotions are concerned. So avoid these. And I think in the next session, Mr. Shumit is probably going to talk a lot about how we can, things that we should not do in our thinking patterns maybe, cognitive patterns. So I'll leave more of that now next to him.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Like ma'am said, let's go further to Sumit sir. And before getting into any other question, I would like to ask sir, so would you like to just state a layman's definition of a positive mindset?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes,
Am I
sir.
fully audible? Okay. So first of all, thanks to NCRT for giving me an opportunity to speak about this very important topic on keeping a positive mindset, because we are going through extremely tough times. I mean, not just we, per se, entire mankind is going through a very tough time in pandemic times. So that becomes very important to have a very positive mindset, because otherwise we cannot face these unprecedented times, actually. So as you asked that what exactly means to be having a positive mindset, okay, so I'll go straight away to, like Sony ma'am talked about, and I'll go, since NCRT stands, represents the school sector, I'll go back to school. Okay, we'll straight away go to something called ABCDEF. Okay, it's like going back to school. So can you just start the slide, please, for me? If you can see the slide, ABCDEF, okay, when we learned it in school, now we come back, where A stands for an activating event. Okay, so suppose we have a situation where a class teacher gives me suddenly announces there will be a surprise test. Okay? So the same surprise test is applying to all the students in the class. But suppose take, for example, there are two students, Raj and Jay. So while Jay thinks, oh my God, now what will happen? I mean, surprise test, I'm not prepared. I'll fail in the exam. Raj, on the other hand, is having a different approach to the same situation, the same activating event, where he's thinking, okay, let's take it as a challenge. Because I'm not the only one in this situation. I'm not the only one who is facing this unprecedented situation. Okay? So let's take it as a challenge. So while Jay is taking it as a threat, Raj is taking it as a challenge. So when you talk about having a positive mindset, it's about having an alternate view to a supposedly negative situation. If we can have an alternate view to a same situation. You see, nowadays, many people are saying that, oh my God, I mean, we are cramped up in home, this lockdown, we are not being able to go outside, we are not being able to be free in our daily lives. I tell them that, where are you locked up? You're thinking of a lockup? Where are you locked up? You're locked up in the supposedly the best place on earth, that is your own home. So can we look at this situation in a different light, that yes, I'm staying at home. See, many people think that we are not getting holidays, too much of work, office, we have to commute every day. Now you're at home. Let's take it this way, that this situation will never come back in our lives, where we have spent so much time at home. We have got so much opportunity to spend time with our own family people, because every day when we go to work, we spend at least 8 to 10 hours of our lives per day outside. But here we get to spend them at home. Yes, I'm not saying that this is bereft of challenges. Online work has its own challenges. But if we can take it in a different light, so the activating event is the same for all of us, but our beliefs are different. So while one person is believing that I will surely fail in the exam, the other person is believing, yes, if I fail, everyone else will also fail, because I'm not the only one in this room. Okay? So it's the same situation for all of us. So I will take it in a different light. And what happens? The consequence is Jay is having a lot of stress. Jay is having a lot of negative emotions, of anxiety, of fear, of helplessness, hopelessness. While Raj is taking it as a challenge and feeling more motivated. Okay, there is a chance, there is an opportunity to perform and show that, yes, bring in my best in me. You see, in cricket matches, you see the best players thrive in the most difficult situations. And that's why they are the best. So there is a difference between good players and great players. Great players thrive. And thriving, by the way, is a positive mindset. How I can thrive even in negative situations. And that calls for resilience also. Okay? So that goes for the C part. And how do I bring an alternate mindset? That's we are going to the D. That is, if we dispute our present thought patterns. We have to dispute our present thought patterns, and then only we can bring in alternate thought processes. That no, if we can try to see the same situation in a different light. Okay? And then we go to E, that is, we have to evaluate the alternative thoughts that we have formed. Okay, can we think of what are the other things we can look at the same situation? And then we can furnish these alternatives. Okay, so that is the ABCDEF model, which is a very basic model. Okay, it's not per se a psychological theoretical model, but just an application-oriented model. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? Are the slides coming? Okay, so now what happens is often we get sucked in various kinds of irrational thinking patterns. Okay. Now, if suddenly a tiger comes in front of me, obviously I'll feel afraid. So there the fear is not irrational, the fear is rational. But often what happens, even if the situation is not fearful, even if the situation is not threatful, we take it in a threatful way. because we have several irrational thought patterns. I'll be slowly discussing them with all of you. First of all is filtering. What do we do over here? We filter out the negatives in the situation and omit the positives. Suppose in a class, the teacher says, your essay was wonderful. He gives me 8 good points. Only two places he says that, no, you just need to change these. So I take only those 2 negatives and carry on thinking about them. I carry on thinking. Nowadays, people have a tendency to only see negative news. Death cases rising, the number of cases, we only focus on that. We are not focusing that this is a wonderful time where the earth is actually healing itself. It is a wonderful time where all pollution has come down. It's a wonderful time where we can think, we can regroup, and as a human race, we can think of alternatives as to how to maintain and preserve ourselves. That we have survived. We have not been obliterated by this pandemic. So that is filtering. Then comes polarization. What do? We think only in terms of good or bad, right or wrong. There is no in between. If I get 80%, I'm good. If I get 79%, my life is finished. If I don't get science, my life is finished. If I don't get into engineering or medical, my life is finished. You all must have watched the film 3 Idiots, where people commit suicide. The student commits suicide because if he doesn't crack the engineering exam, that means aren't there alternatives? Can I not think of alternative ways? Can I think of alternative careers? You saw that chap in 3 Idiots who pursued an alternative career in wildlife photography and he thrived. Thriving again is a positive mindset. Okay? Then I come to overgeneralization. 1 or 2 examples. I have 1 or 2 negative experiences and I overgeneralize it to entire communities. One teacher may have said a bad thing about me and I say all teachers are bad. All bosses are bad. So what I do, I think I'm focusing only on the negatives. One friend ditched me. I think no one is to be trusted, and I become paranoid. I don't trust anyone. I start mistrusting people, and trust is a virtue. When the day we lose trust, we lose a major part of our lives. Okay, so trust is very important. Then we have something called mind reading. Just by looking at you, I can know what is going on in your mind. Is it true? Is it possible to think that way? Just by looking at you, oh, he's not looking at me in a nice way. That means he's having something negative about me. So I'm focusing only on those negatives. Okay? Can you go to the next slide, please? In the next slide, we see there's something called catastrophization. So maybe a small event, we catastrophize. Okay? I visited the tsunami-affected areas in 2004, when it happened in 2004, and I saw the trauma in people's lives. But if now in 2021, I feel afraid of going to sea, because if a tsunami comes, that is, I am catastrophizing. So what I am doing is, maybe in one exam I fail, or maybe in one exam I don't get my required marks. I think, oh my God, that means my entire results will be bad, my entire career will be bad, I won't get a good job, I won't be able to live a comfortable life, I won't be able to show my face in society. Okay? So that is what happens just because of I'm not doing well in one particular exam. So I catastrophize things. There is a constant thing of what ifs. I constantly think of what if this will happen, what if that will happen. Okay? So these are the ways I can easily get into the negative mindset. Okay? And then what I do, I either blame myself or I blame others for my misfortune. Okay? And then, as Tony Man said about having a locus of control, it is very important to have a locus of control. But if there is a fallacy in the locus of control, then I think entire responsibility of taking care of others is on me. Like at this moment, if I'm thinking that I'm sitting here in front of camera, but I have to take care of my parents, I have to take care of my friends, everything, their well-being is as if their well-being is totally dependent on me. but I can't take the responsibility of everyone in the world. Okay, so that is the fallacy of internal control. The opposite is, I think I have nothing to do. So I feel hopeless and I feel helpless. Nothing is in my hands. So that is the other extreme of fallacy of internal control. It is called the fallacy of external control. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? If you go to the next slide, you will see there's something called personalization. What happens is I personalize everything as if it's happening with me. Two people are talking and I think they're talking about me, they're criticizing me, they're saying something negative about me. I enter a room and suddenly if some people suddenly become quiet, I think, oh, that means they were surely talking about me and now they are hiding something from me. So I constantly think all the events that are happening is centered around me. That becomes a problem. And of course, when you talk about justice, when you talk about fairness, if I am not up to the mark and think that others are not treating me well, I think it is their fault. But actually, I don't look that I am not at par. I am not fulfilling my duties. I am not fulfilling my responsibilities. But that becomes a problem in that case. The next point is emotional reasoning. Okay, what do? I think in terms of emotions. I get up in the morning and I'm not feeling well. Just like that. And I think, okay, today the whole day will go back. And actually the whole day goes back because I'm constantly thinking of negative things. Because I'm thinking with emotions. Emotions have their place, but you have to think rationally because emotions are actually guided by our thoughts. Okay, when I said activating events, they activate our automatic thoughts. The moment I see something, it's like, the moment I see a cockroach, I immediately jump and run. Because I think the cockroach might come near me and get on top of me or whatever. So these are the automatic thoughts I'm having. And they lead to my emotions. And that creates the problem. Okay, so we have to deal with them. Can you go to the next slide, please? In the next slide, you will see many a times our world is guided by shoulds. You should do this. You should not do that. Often you will find parents saying, you should not. There is no freedom. It's all very rigid system of shoulds. There is no flexibility. I should be on time every time. If I'm 5 minutes late, that means I'm a bad one. If I'm taking a class, if the students are not coming in time, they should be on time. They should be punctual. They should be regular and obedient. If they're not coming in time, that means they're bad students. I generalize all the students to be bad. Okay, this is how shoulds are playing in my mind. Okay, and then I think that always I am being right. Whatever I say is right. I can never be wrong. So whoever is challenging me, I think that he's my adversary, he's my enemy, and then I create enmity with that person. And this is how I get into a negative mindset. Okay? So these, and also I label that person bad or that crook, or I say that he's disobedient or ill-mannered, whatever it is. Okay? So these are some of the distorted thinking patterns, irrational thinking patterns we often get into. Now, but what do I do with it? I have to overcome these thinking patterns, right? Then what do? I have to handle these patterns. Can you go to the next slide, please? In the next slide, we find how to handle this. So in filtering, we have to shift the focus from only the negatives to the positives. As I said that, yeah, this is a great opportunity. If you listen to speeches by Sadhguru and all, he's saying that this is a great opportunity for mankind to rise and raise our standards, to think in a different light, and to treat nature with due respect. Otherwise, again, we'll be in deep trouble. So we have to focus on the positives. And that is how we can handle filtering. Regarding polarization, we have to think in percentages. I cannot be either good or bad. Others cannot be either good or bad. It's not about black and white thinking. It's about thinking in shades of gray. Our lives are not only black or only white. We all have shades of gray. So I can be, okay, 60% good, 40% bad. So I'm focusing on the 60% good. I may be 80% bad, but I'm 20% good also. Okay. So as Bertha was saying, that yes, the moment I change my attitude, I change my outlook, that means I'm focusing on the positives also. And that is what is required to handle polarization. If you go to the next slide, please. In the next slide, we'll find regarding fallacies of internal control, I have to delegate responsibility to others because I can't do everything on my own. I have to be in harmony with my environment. Just as I am getting shaped by the environment, I also shape my environment. So that comes under fallacy of external control, where I have to take responsibility also. So in internal control, I delegate responsibility to others. In fallacy of external control, I actually have to own up responsibility for my own actions, for my own duties, for my own expectations to be fulfilled by myself from others. Okay? Can you go to the next slide, please? So regarding blaming, I have to see the situation, whether actually the other person is at fault and in what situation the other person is. So that calls for empathy. I have to empathize with the other person. And often we self-blame. So that is where, as Soni ma'am was saying, that there is nothing bigger than forgiveness. And the first step is, if I can forgive myself, that yes, I've made mistakes. To err is human. We are all human beings. So we can make mistakes, but it's important to learn from the mistakes so that we don't repeat them. That becomes very important. Okay? And now for emotional reasoning, we have to think in terms of there is something, if you go to the next slide, please. Please go to the next slide, the second last slide I'm talking about. Okay? You will find we have created 3 columns. Okay? In one column, you have taken a decision, you have taken a judgment about someone or about yourself. So you must have some evidences of that. So in the second column, if I can think of if I can think of evidences against what conclusions that I've taken. Like I've said that this person is very bad. On what basis am I saying it? Is it because of 1 or 2 incidents? Now maybe this person is actually not so bad. So then what I do, I look at his other characteristics. So then I'm focusing on the positives. Okay, this person is not so bad. So tsunami came once. Is the seaside so bad? Is the seaside so dangerous? On so many other days, for the last 17 years, we haven't had tsunamis. So it's not that bad to go to the seaside. That is the third column. We create an alternate conclusion. That is the D of that ABCD, that I'm disputing my present beliefs and I'm coming up with the E, that alternate beliefs, if I can think. If I can think the same situation in alternate ways. And that is where I can create new conclusions which are more positive in nature. Okay? So that is how we can handle so many of these distorted thinking patterns. Now, if you can go to the last slide, because often what happens, we are so stricken by negativity, we cannot think properly. That is where I've introduced some behavioral techniques which we can do. That is, if I'm not being able to think properly, I can do some, as Soni ma'am said, meditation. So I am introducing something called deep breathing, where if you can just sit with your eyes closed and in very relaxed posture. Okay? Now what happens when we are tensed, we tend to hyperventilate. We do chest breathing. We breathe like this kind of thing. The idea is to, as far as possible, sit in a relaxed way and do abdominal breathing. breathe, I don't think my entire body is being visible, but if we take deep breaths, so I take in breath my nose and exhale through my mouth. And while inhaling, I tell myself, I am taking in all the positivity, I'm taking in fresh air, I'm taking in oxygen from the atmosphere, from my surroundings. And while exhaling, I tell myself, so this thought I'm running in myself, that I'm exhaling all negativity from me. I'm exhaling all the disturbances, all distresses from me. And now I'm feeling relaxed. I tell myself, that is the third point, that is self-talk. I talk to myself and say that now I'm filling myself with all positivity. So this is deep breathing. It is a very simple exercise you can do anywhere, sitting, standing, lying down, anywhere you can do it. And the other one is, if you can just close your mind and think that you're in a wonderful situation, wherever you feel like, either you're taking a good stroll, as Soni ma'am said, take a walk, go outside, good stroll in the meadows, or in the seaside, or in the mountains, with all your near and dear ones. And you can tell yourself that I'm feeling relaxed. It's a beautiful day. I'm alive. Thank everyone that yes, we are all contributing to each other's lives, not just myself, but others are also contributing. And we are leading a wonderful life. Yes, we have our limitations, we have our challenges. I'm not saying everything is positive. There's something called toxic positivity also. It's not about being positive, only positive, positive. No. Life is not a bed of roses, there are thorns. But we have to focus on the roses also. If I can show you in the end that this bottle, we often think, that, is this bottle half full? The positive people will say this is half full, not half empty, right?
Right.
But the new thing, in the new normal, we can say the bottle is never empty or never half full. It is always full, because half of it is water and the remaining half is air. We need both air and water to survive. Okay? So the bottle is always full. It is never half full.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you so much. I end my
Thank you so much, sir. And I'm glad we are ending with such a good example that a bottle is never half full. It's always full, either with water or with air. Okay, so just one last question before leaving. So in these times of social media, when young generation, they try and be online all the time on various platforms, and there's a lot of negativity over there. So the behavioral attitudes, methods you just showed us, will that work in that situation as well?
It depends on how we make it work. First of all, I never blame the social media or the technology. It's how we use the technology. Okay?
Okay.
Technology should be at our disposal. We should not become its slaves. So the idea is not to cut down on technology. Idea is to judiciously use technology. Okay? That is where the mindset comes in, and that is where sections like these become very important, because it's all in our mindsets. Because the same Facebook can be used in a negative way. The same Facebook gave rise to the Arab Spring, the Spring Revolution. The same social media is used to connect with so many people. It's up to us. See, it's all about striking a balance. When Soni ma'am talks about self-regulation, it's all about striking a balance. See, we can die drinking water also. Water gives us life. But we can die drinking water. When a person drowns, he dies drinking water. Similarly, poison, if taken within the limit, can be medicine. So nothing itself is good or bad. It's how we use it, how we take it into our stride. It's up to us. It's all over here.
Absolutely.
It's nothing outside.
Got the point. Thank you so much, sir. And having a positive mindset It's very important for each one of us, and it depends on each individual how you take the situation or whatever is happening around you. Thank you so much to all the panelists. But before leaving, we have got last 2 minutes left, and I would request Bertha ma'am to sum up the entire explanation, discussion in just a few lines, because we have just 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Bertha ma'am.
thank you. Well, after all that, let us just summarize this. I think a positive mindset is a philosophy which guides us in how we think, feel, we act. And it is also an expression of faith. And there is no better thing than to please the higher being on which our lives depend. A positive mindset is a skill to be studied and practiced. It requires a lot of self-discipline, because it's always faster to destroy, and it's harder and takes longer to build up again. Sometimes we cannot do it ourselves, and we need the help of others to maintain a positive mindset to as far as possible. And let us remember how we, there's one saying that a fact, F-A-C-T, is not as important as the attitude towards it. So young people, for example, a difficulty is not as important as the attitude that we have towards that difficulty. In other words, let us focus more on the attitude we have towards a certain challenge or a problem that comes our way. And for me personally, I feel that irrespective of whether we have a strong positive mindset or not, what we speak out is very important. Let us remember that the tongue has an immense power, a very effective power on us, on our physical being, on our mental being, on our emotional and spiritual being. Let us always speak positively. My best wishes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you to all other panelists for joining this session and talking about having a positive mindset. Thank you once again. Thank you to all the viewers for watching this session, and I hope now you have understood the idea of positive mindset and how it can help in your daily life. So please develop the attitude and try and handle all your difficulties, problems in a positive way. Thank you so much for watching this session once again. And if you have any compliments, comments, feedback for us, then ncertofficial, our YouTube channel, it's always there. You can put your comments over there in the live chat box and share them with us. So I'll take a leave of you, and Tanvi Khurana leaving now, but we'll come back on next Friday once again with another topic. So keep on watching PM eVidya channels. Namaskar.